Hello and welcome to the EFM Health Club Podcast for another week. My name's Justin Waring. Alongside me is both Wade Brady and Jason Jesusius. Hello, boys.
G'day, fellas.
Welcome for another week. We are three guys in fitness here to help you understand and maybe get an extra information about all of your health, fitness, well-being, and gym goings on a week-to-week basis. So we have a topic today that people like to avoid generally. I mean, the actual feeling of it. So we're talking muscle soreness today. And if you've worked out or done any different kind of exercise at any point in your life, at some point you would have woken up the next day and gone, holy crap, geez, I'm really sore. My arm's sore, my leg's sore, my butt's sore. Hopefully not your lower back, but one of those, singular muscle groups you go, I don't know what I did, but I'm really, really sore. So we're here today to discuss why that happens, how we can maybe not so much avoid it, but talk about how we can, decrease the severity of those symptoms, why they're actually not a problem, why they're probably good for you, and everything else that we might venture into along the process. So, Jace, do you want to get us started for today? Why, after exercise, let's say we did a gym session this morning, and then we wake up tomorrow and we're sore. Why is that happening?
Yeah, a good question, Justin. So essentially what happens when you're working out, there's you fatigue your muscles, and then over the next 24 to 48 hours, slowly but surely, there's a growing inflammatory effect at the muscles, at the nerves, and it takes a while for that signal to come through for a few sciencey reasons that we won't go too deeply into today. But there is a delay in that effect. So typically when you work the muscles past what you are comfortable using them, or more than what you are used to using them, then part of the response is that muscle, it gets partially broken down, needs to be healed, needs to be recovered. And the end result is that somewhere between 12 and 24 hours later, you'll start to feel that muscle soreness that can last anywhere from, might last 24 hours. It might last 36 to 48 hours or longer if you've gone well past what your limits are. So does that answer your question, Justin?
Yeah, that's really good. And you're right. We don't want to go too much into the science of it all. We do know how it all works. And so just to recap in a really basic form, and I guess this is where people start to get worried. The first instance when you start lifting some weights or overload the muscle, they tear a little bit, right? We call them micro tears, but it tears. And people go, oh, hang on, I don't want to tear my muscle. But in terms of that muscle adapting to a heavier load or a heavier, what you're requiring it to do, it has to tear a little bit. Then your body produces this response to a slightly torn muscle, so it inflames, and then as a result of that inflammation, it starts to push on some nerves and whatever you around that muscle, and then when you touch it, it's sore. When you use it, it's sore. So that's all a result of that inflammatory response. Yeah. So that happens from sometimes just going on an extended walk, or from hitting the gym and doing a much heavier weight at a specific exercise that you're not used to. So Wade, I mean, do you hear much people don't want to get sore in the gym? Like, is that something that you hear a lot of? I know I hear a fair bit of it.
I do, particularly from new people, understandably, because it's much easier to get sore. There is the other end of the spectrum where some of the sickos or some of the people that have been around for a long time are looking to be sore. They're not happy the next day. Not all the time, but they might just have this, I want to be sore tomorrow. I really want to push hard and work my legs hard today, and I want to be able to feel it tomorrow, because I guess it gives them that feedback that they have broken it down, so therefore it will grow back stronger. There's no other way to get stronger. But on the whole, I think people are trying to avoid getting sore. Even for myself this week, I've got a tennis tournament starting on Saturday, and I'm just going to be very careful that I'm not too sore. Or sometimes I think I overdo it on avoiding the soreness stuff. But yeah, and sporting, I'll basketball once a week, and I'll make sure that I go a bit easier on my legs in the lead up, because it's not much fun trying to perform at a higher level when you're sore. It makes it pretty hard. But yeah, it is a fear. It's a real fear, and I'm pretty conscious of it as a trainer, because if you, I don't know, you hear horror stories, call it what you like, of young PTs probably in particular, of getting a new client, and they want to smash them, and they want them to be so sore tomorrow they can't move. Now, I think there's a small percentage of the population that get off on that, small percentage, but that's a disservice. That's a disservice to the individual, and you could put them off for life. So that's one of my gripes within the industry. When you hear that sort of stuff happen, I think we should be smarter than that. But a lot of it is around the education. I try to educate people, what exactly we're talking about here. And I don't even know if I've got to it yet, the term it's actually called. Have we? DOMS?
Delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS?
DOMS, yeah, DOMS. Delayed onset muscle soreness. Yeah.
So, all right. So we've talked muscle soreness, now delayed onset. Why does it delay? So if you've experienced it before, you tend to know that the second day afterwards is a little worse than the day after. Why is that the case?
Because initially, so you've done the training, you've given the stimulus to the muscles. That inflammation, number one, takes a while to build. I guess it builds to a peak of the healing cycle. The second part is that when the muscles are broken down, or those micro tears you spoke about, Justin, the nerve endings that connect those muscles also get damaged, and those nerve endings transmit the signal to your brain that says ow, right? So when those nerve endings in the repairing process start to reconnect, that's when the message gets through, and those nerve endings connecting peak probably somewhere between that 24 and 48 hour mark. So that's when we feel the most sore. As you come down the other side, you get to 48 hours and beyond, most of the healing is done. Most of those nerve endings have reconnected. Most of the repairing is done. So therefore, on the other side is when there's less of that soreness. I think that's my take on that.
Yeah, and I think a part of it too is actually being still. So through the night, you're pretty much completely still for a number of hours on end, and you wake up, and then you go to start moving again. And as I'm sure we're going to cover, the moving is actually the best cure, keeping the blood circulating through. I know I wear compression stockings because I have circulation problems in my legs, and I know better than anyone, if you have poor circulation, you don't have healing. So if I take my compression stockings off, I'll have a varicose ulcer on my foot within 24 or 48 hours. I can guarantee it. So that circulation. So yeah, obviously at night, your circulation would slow right down, and the muscles are still, they're not contracting, moving backwards and forwards at all. And then you wake up in the morning, you get a bit of a shock when you try to obviously just use them climbing out of bed.
The catch cry I use with my members is that motion is lotion.
Yeah, and rest is rust.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, let's get into that. How do we avoid this muscle sore? Not avoid it, because there's going to be some level of soreness there with it. But I guess how do we shave off the edges, manage it? How do we what are some of the things we can do to ensure that it's probably not at the extreme end, so that we can, it's manageable the following day?
Can I start at the start rather than dealing with it, rather than prevention, rather than cure? good to know both, because sometimes you get a surprise and you think, all right, I won't be too sore tomorrow, and you can always get surprised. But a lot of people will go to the gym and split program, and they might do it because they know what they're doing. They might doing it because their friend told them to do it, and they're just going to do all legs today. Now that's not a good idea, because you're going to be sore the next day because you've just concentrated so much on the same muscles. So I'd be working to try and avoid soreness, working everything, like work some upper body, work some lower body, work some core, do some cardio, and spread it out. That'd be a good way to avoid it. Someone that's getting a bit more serious into their weight training, do 2 sets, maybe 3 sets, but when you start adding 4, 5 sets, that's another one that'll make you sore.
Those are advanced techniques. Is that fair to say, Wade?
They are advanced techniques.
To have their place, but not for a beginner. You got to build towards that.
Build towards it, yeah. So and mixing up the movements, like if you want to go a little bit more technical, if you're doing push day, and you just spend an hour doing 2 push exercises, my God, you're going to be sore. But if you can do every different combination of a push exercise you can think of, it's going to reduce it a bit the next day and have its other benefits. So, but then I might throw to you, Jason, on probably more getting over DOMS.
We'll get to that. I think you made a really good point, though, about the prevention. I think that's really important because you want to set yourself up for success, right? So it's some of those smaller things that we might not talk about, like fueling your workout with good food. So you're not eating garbage, or worse, not eating at all. Leading into your workout, that you're hydrated. So you're not entering the workout dehydrated. That's going to help to prevent your DOMS, and making sure you get a good effective warm up prior, rather than just going straight in and going straight into heavy lifting. Warm up includes, yes, elevating your heart rate. Warm up includes switching on your stabilizing muscles with some mobility based movements. And we can get into that in more detail at another stage. So that's probably on the prevention side from me. As far as post workout is concerned, it's cooling down. It's doing some steady state cardio and or some lighter lifting at the end of your workout with some stretching that helps to move the lactic acid out of the muscle. So that's one less inflammatory response that we're going to have. And then staying hydrated and making sure you get good nutrition in after the workout, because I promise you, if you don't eat anything with protein for 24 hours after your workout, then that's going to make the inflammatory response and the reaction time, the time that you spend sore and the amount of soreness, that will make that greater by not having protein after. So that's it for me on pre and post workout.
Yes, good pickup. I glossed over that.
No. You started by talking about prevention. So
and also things like foam rolling after post workout. You've also, there's a spate of, if you've only got to click on social media and find someone selling an ice bath at this point in time. So, I think the overall benefits, like anything, there's no wonder cure for anything, but an ice bath, if you can handle it within 30 minutes afterwards, constricts blood vessels and would reduce the inflammatory response. Now, I can't imagine myself ever doing it. I'd rather be sore for 2 days, but if that's something you can handle, go ahead.
So just on that little detour, I was listening to a podcast the other day. There's a professional basketballer named Anthony Edwards who plays in the NBA for Minnesota, and he's 23 years old, and he's incredible. He's an amazing athlete, but he's like a kid in some other ways. And the veterans were trying to sell him on the benefits of what you're talking about right now. For the everyday layperson, making a commitment to setting up and then actually taking an ice bath is reasonably extreme. However, if you're a professional athlete you want to get the most out of your body and lengthen your career, lengthen the life of your body's performance, you're absolutely taking ice baths. So little detour, but interesting.
Yeah. Well, and I think that goes to the point, Wade, you were talking about before, is so when you're playing basketball, you've got tennis coming up, so you'll ease off on your leg workout or arm workout, whatever it might be. And that's not, and you go, because I know I'm going to be sore if I do a bigger kind of workout. That's more being able to kind of peak for performance in some other area. If you know you're going on a massive hike on the weekend, you had plans with friends, there's really, you know, there's no value in doing a massive like leg workout or, you know, huge gym workout on Thursday, knowing by Saturday you're probably going to be stiff. So that's the management you were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, one of my favorite go-tos, if I still want to get a good workout in, as in terms of burning calories, getting your heart rate up, but setting yourself up to burn lots of calories for the hours following your workout, my go-to is power and speed. Like I did it the other day, heaps of like explosive movements with the sand ball and like ladder runs and speed stuff. It's like 30 seconds sprint on the Spark. 15 seconds sprint at all out. But even though I was knackered and giving 100%, I didn't have any soreness at all the next day. So that I always find that the speed and power exercises and interval HIIT training or whatever, you can still work really hard, but I find that myself is a safe way of not being sore in the days following. If you're trying to preserve your body for a sporting event.
Yeah. And so just getting back to prevention too, like in terms of your warm up, so some people have a bit of a stretch, jump on a machine to get their heart rate going, doing some movement specific exercises. So if you are going to do, let's say, do more of your legs on one specific day, if you're a little bit experienced and you're going to get under a load with squats, some body weight squats, and progressively load up the weight rather than going, right, I've done 2 minutes on the bike, let's get stuck into my, you know, heaviest squat that I'm going to do today. So there needs to be, well, to prevent the huge big muscle soreness, like a little bit of a stepping stone approach to get into your exercise.
And I probably wouldn't try a new exercise either, because that's usually what gets you. And it's like you might have really strong legs and then go and walk up a mountain, and you might do it pretty comfortably, but the next day you're all sore around your hips because it's a new movement. So I'd probably stick to the movements your body's used to as well. If again, preserving your body for sport.
Yeah, if we're preserving for sport, yeah. And I think just in general, taking those, like the idea of just progressively overloading the muscle. So do it, we do it in our day-to-day lives, taking people from zero where they've never exercised before, step by step along the process. Yes. So there will be a point in time where we take maybe a bit too big a step, and that's where you start to feel a bit sore on any given day. Which is a normal kind of approach. But if you're going to want to take these huge jumps, that's when you'll get sore. And these kind of prevention strategies are what we're providing for you.
So just to elaborate on what you're saying there a bit, Justin, about the overload, if I've got someone new, for instance, and they're doing their weights, they're doing weights for maybe the first time even if it's only the first time in several months, let alone the first time ever, I'll encourage them or try to help them choose a weight that allows them to stay with maybe 5 reps in reserve at the end of their set, right? So that they're not going to failure, 0 reps in reserve. The closer they go to 0 reps in reserve, the sorer they're going to be. However, as time progresses and they're doing 2 to 3 sessions a week, maybe more, come 1 month, 2 months down the line, then we can start to push the boundaries on, all right, maybe let's go to 2 reps in reserve or 1 rep in reserve. Or, they've been training for quite some time now. On that last set, I want you to go until you can't lift anymore, so that we are doing it steadily and progressively, and you're not getting that one huge workout that's way out of your depth that causes that big inflammatory response we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people that have had a break from training are the ones at the biggest risk there because they know how to push themselves.
Yeah.
They've got the mental strength to do it. But their body's lost so much condition, and I've seen it. Look, a bloke I used to play high grade. I used to play A grade 20 years ago. They come into the gym and they overdo it, and they must be so sore. And quite a lot of times they haven't come back again because they've probably just put themselves off. So sometimes you learn by doing. And just a quick question to you both. Now, I did a stretching course many years ago, and they said static stretching won't prevent soreness the next day because you've already torn. The theory made sense. They said because you've torn the muscle doing your weight training, so doing any stretching following won't reverse any of that little tearing that occurred. Now, so I'll tell you what happened in reality. What do you guys think of that before I continue? Would you agree?
Yeah, I think I've never felt that stretching helped muscle soreness. Some light movement so that we get blood flow to that area, because we're trying to, in terms of reducing the pain, my belief is that we get blood flows to help with that, speed up that inflammatory response. So stretching tends not to do that. Stretching will reduce muscle tightness, but not help with the process of repairing the tear in the muscle.
So where I'd push back, and it's not necessarily a disagreement. I think that the type of stretching matters. So passive, static stretching where there's no engagement of muscles, to me,
well, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Okay. So that doesn't do as effective a job. There are active stretches. So I can be in a push-up position and I'll bring my knee up and stretch my glute that way, right? And if I hold that for 30 seconds and just lay there, that's one thing. However, if I get into that position, bring my knee up and through, I hold that stretch for 5 seconds, then change sides. There's some dynamic things that are happening as far as movement is concerned that's going to promote blood flow. Not to mention that stretching itself does actually promote blood flow, does it not? So those things are going to impact your lactic acid and how much retains in your muscles. So if you can remove a lot of the lactic acid out, that at least reduces some of the inflammatory response, and more of the repair can go towards repairing muscles instead of having to work through that lactic acid and dispersing that as well. So does it directly help sore muscles? I don't know. Does it directly help reduce lactic acid buildup? Yes. And therefore the recovery as well is steady, low aerobic movement better or more effective? I would argue there's a case for that. Absolutely. But I do think there's a place for stretching. The how is important though.
Okay. So you've got theory versus real life. So you go to the course and you come back to the club with your newfound knowledge, and you basically tell the people that are static stretching at the end of the workout. I was told in a course on the weekend, it's a waste of time stretching because you've already torn your muscles and that stretching is not going to undo. And I got shot down left, right and centre by a lot of members that have been training longer than me, older people than me. And they said, if I don't stretch, I'm going to be really sore tomorrow. So I never went back to the guy in the course that told me that. But that was just a really good learning for me that, I think theory is good in theory, but sometimes there's other things going on that we're not aware of, and it's really hard to argue with the real life situation. And they were static stretching as well. And there was a group of people, they were adamant and said, if I don't stretch, I'm going to be really sore tomorrow after the workout. So it was really interesting.
Well, I mean, I still reckon I'm right, but
love it. We've got a debate. This is good.
But here's what I'd say is, you do some sessions someday and you go, my goodness, I'm going to be sore tomorrow, and you're just clearly not. So there will be some sessions that our members and you listening at home go to the gym and you go, that was an awesome workout. I worked my backside off. I'm going to be sore tomorrow, and then simply not. There are reasons in terms of why some workouts promote muscle soreness and others don't. Right. And so I'd argue with, and Wade, give me their number, I'll argue with them. I'd argue that the workouts where they say, if I don't stretch, I'm going to be sore tomorrow, potentially that workout, and they've done their stretch, and it wasn't going to be the workout that made them sore anyway.
Yeah, mate, I actually don't really have an opinion. I just don't
you
want
can't
to
sit on the fence, Wade.
I just don't want to tell those people they're wrong. Like I prefer the theory, and I don't stretch myself to prevent it because I'm not so sure. But I don't want to tell those people they're wrong either. So it's
I'm with you though. I am going to sit on the other side of the fence because my experience tells me that my members that do stretch versus the members that don't. The members that don't stretch, they're sore.
Yeah.
The members that do stretch are less sore, and they tell me that when they don't stretch, they're more sore. So I get the science and the theory of what's being put forward, but practice and reality tells me otherwise. Now, I'm not saying it's the most effective way to reduce soreness or it's the only way to reduce soreness. I think it's multifaceted. However, I do think that stretching plays a part. How effective passive stretching is, I would agree, Justin. I would say that passive stretching isn't as effective. Active stretching, dynamic stretching, I would say is effective. If it's not effective, we could have a debate about the benefits of yoga and how that creates longer, healthier muscles. So there's a lot of stretching based elements to yoga, but those aren't passive either.
But I remember a story of an elite cyclist. His body was very in tune with cycling. He could smash it. And his girlfriend or wife said, "Come along to yoga and give it a go." And he thought he laughed and thought, "Oh, this will be fun. This will be cute. I'll go and try a bit of yoga." And he was really, really sore the next day. So just that complete change of stimulus.
That's a different type of training, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why. So if we go through really quickly, and I can list off a couple of reasons why one day you might be sore, or some workouts you'll be sore, other workouts you won't be. So there is that muscle adaptation factor where if you're used to doing that exercise, it's going to be a little bit harder to push beyond. You have to keep increasing a little bit, extra to get that muscle soreness. There's also form has a little bit to play here in terms of how you're doing specific exercises with weights.
100%.
All right. So the eccentric and concentric movements of a particular exercise play a big role in whether or not you're going to do create these micro tears in your muscle. So the lowering movement, the eccentric movement, is the one that does the most damage and is the one that's most often forgotten about by people. So if I think about a bicep curl, we bring the hand towards your shoulder, easy. Everyone does that, and then they let their arm flop. All right. So if you were to concentrate on that lowering motion, that's where you actually get the most impact and most of the tears in the muscle, so that you get the most soreness.
I was always sus on that because I thought, how can the easier bit be the more beneficial bit? But do you know how they worked this out? How they worked it out?
But go ahead.
Two groups of people, and I don't know what the time period was, but one group only did the concentric. So they must have done the lift, and then there must have been someone lower it for them, and then they lift again, and then someone else lowers it for them, and they lift again. And then the other group was just the lowering phase. So the eccentric, they'd lower it. They must have had assistance in lifting it up, lowering it, and they did it over a period of time. And the group that only did the lowering, the eccentric phase, they had more strength gains than the lifting crew, which is you can't argue with that. Like theories and science aside, that's a really good test for me.
Yeah.
Can I introduce a small and very basic level on the science side for that?
Yes.
Yep.
You can.
Permission, Justin. Yeah. So when your muscles contract, right, they grab a hold and they clench like this, and the muscles shorten, right, and there's not much in the way of tearing. That's on the concentric, on the lift. When you lower the weight, right, what's happening is you are trying to control that weight down slowly. So the muscles are doing this. They're holding on and trying to contract and hold on, but then they fatigue. And then those little micro tears, right, they occur when you're lowering with control. And the more of those micro tears take place, that's where the soreness comes from. But the micro tears don't happen as much on the concentric. They do take place when you're trying to control and lower. And the slower you go on the eccentric, the slower and the more control you use, the more of those micro tears you're going to achieve. Also takes place in anything where you're decelerating. So if you play a sport where you have to stop quickly, or you're doing squat jumps, or anything with any kind of impact, boxing, where there's a stopping, all of a sudden you come to a stop and there's a rapid deceleration, that triggers the micro tears as well.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple and you missed out on Jason's puppet show on YouTube, I suggest you go and have a look.
I was going to say something like that, but not as funny. That was good.
All right, and then some other things. So, warm up, exercise volume versus intensity, all of these things, each individual will be susceptible to a little bit different levels of muscle soreness in terms of their experience, age, and what have you. So given all of them, I still reckon I'm right, but I can't remember exactly what the question was.
You can be right. You can believe it, it's true.
You're still going back to the stretching thing. We've moved on, Justin. Let it go.
We've moved on.
Yeah,
I can't let it go. I can't let it go.
We're looking at overcoming DOMS now, host.
Yeah. So all of those things, all those variabilities, and I'd suggest that's what I was going to say, suggest that those people who stretch in the gym, right, after a workout, and there's some people who want to walk straight out the door and go, no, I'll stretch at home, I'll be fine, I don't need to, who end up being, experience a little bit more soreness. The people who spend that extra 5 minutes or finish their workout an extra 5 minutes early have a bit of a more of a holistic approach about how to maintain their body, do a proper cool down, maybe eat a little bit better, whatever, aren't just there to smash as many calories out in a gym as they possibly can as well. So
I'm going to push back a little bit very quickly. Most of my guys that stretch are the ones that hear every day, and the ones that don't stretch, I haven't actually written down the statistics, but I'm sure the ones that don't stretch are more likely to be the 2 or 3 times a week. So that's probably another factor why they're sore, Justin.
No, that's still my point.
No, you're more conditioned.
That's still my point. They're the ones doing a lot more. They're actually doing the stretching. They're doing the proper cool down. They're eating properly. They're doing all of the package.
No, they're just training more, so their muscles are more used to it, so they don't get as sore.
I said that too.
Did you?
My way in on that is the person that stops and stretches for 5 to 6 minutes afterwards. The fact that they are moving for 5 to 6 minutes after their workout finishes, as opposed to stopping their workout. I don't need a stretch, I'll get in the car. Then they go and get in the car. They go from going, stop.
Yeah.
They will be more sore. The mere fact that people are stretching means they are still moving, they are still getting blood flow. So whether it's directly or indirectly.
Well, that gives light or strength to the argument of doing a cool down, which I think the cool down's probably dead. I don't know, but I think most places, and I don't know who does a cool down these days. It's usually workout, stop, stretch. I don't know how many people do a cool down.
I strongly encourage a cool down. Not everyone takes it, because let's talk real life for a second. People got 40 minutes. I want to get in. I want to do the quickest warm up I can. Then I want to get 38 and a half minutes of bang, bang, bang. Let me get out of here because I got to go to work, or I got to go home and feed my kids, or start my nighttime routine. So
I want to start doing some studies. I want to start doing some studies on my members now and see what sort of, I believe it when
you've got time.
You know what I mean? I could just trust in what you say, Justin, but I'd rather see it for myself. I'm joking. There is one thing, I think you're about to wrap it up here, but there's one part I think we missed, as in, if you're sore, when do you go back to the gym? Do you wait? Is it all right if we just quickly cover off on this? I'm not sure how long we've been going for, but like I think for many years I was told when I did my Cert 3 and 4 in fitness, it was like they would hammer it into us: do not overtrain, do not train when sore, do not train when sore. So I was abided by that. And I remember doing a boot camp once, and I literally had sore legs for near a week, and so I didn't do anything for a week. I just had to keep waiting for it to go away. And I remember seeing a video one day. It was titled "Why to Train When Sore," and it sparked up my interest, because it's like, we're not supposed to do that. So I watched it, and it basically said, get moving again, and you're going to recover so much quicker. And I think what I learned out of all that is, when you put it all together, is you wouldn't go back and do the same workout that smashed you, of course not, but you get on the bike, do some cardio, get the blood, again, circulation heals, get the blood through the muscles, and before you know it, the soreness is reduced down to 1.5, 2 days, where it could have been 5 days. So I just wanted to, make sure I got that in.
Yep.
You're introducing movement and blood flow. Blood flow has the healing properties without giving yourself enough to trigger that inflammatory response we're talking about. So it's lower intensity activity, lots of big movements, but at a lower intensity. Get that blood flow. You don't go for the full length of your normal session. You might go a little lighter, a little shorter, but you're right. It will speed up the healing process, 100%.
But your body's saying no. Don't get me wrong. Your body's saying no. I can't possibly do it again. But you can overcome it. And then nearly, I think every time you'll go, geez, I feel a lot better now. I can't believe it. Yeah.
Partway through the workout, you'll experience it, and afterwards.
Bit of a light stretch, getting on the roller, a bit of cardio. You're sort of nursing yourself back to good health in a way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So if we like, I think we've covered muscle soreness across the breadth of how it happens, why it happens, when does it happen, how do you avoid it, how do you reduce the soreness. I think we've covered off on a lot. So if you're listening to this at home now and thinking, well, okay, so how do I prevent it? We've covered that. So all of those processes, both in the gym and before and after. So in terms of nutrition, so we're covering off on all the real pillars here. So we're warming up, we're doing the exercises, we're being sensible, we're eating, we're drinking, we're sleeping. When we're going through our workout, there was that little tidbit there we discussed about, really effective strength training, something that eccentric movement that people often bypass, So really, if that's something you don't do, if you don't worry about the downward motion, in your next workout, just have a go, have a little concentration on that bit. Mm. It's probably an inevitable part of not just gym life, but overall life. You're going to, at some point, overload the muscles and they're going to be sore. And that might be just a matter of doing an extra bit of gardening on a Saturday and having to go down and pulling out weeds like I did all last weekend. So you're up and down, squatting, you're down on your knees, you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. So you've overloaded the muscle. What do you do after? Wade, you get moving. Don't be afraid. So I wouldn't go back and pull out another garden bed full of weeds, but that gentle walk, if you've got a bike, have a bit of a cycle, that'll help reduce the soreness.
It was always the thing we do back in the footy days. I don't know if you played footy, but you'd be bloody sore on Sunday and you didn't want to move. I remember Mum, I don't know how she knew, but maybe because she was a nurse, she'd always tell me to go and do a walk, just get out and walk. And when I did it, which was very rarely, she was right, as mums are, and I was feeling so much better when I'd have to go back to work on Monday. But if I didn't get out and move at all on the Sunday, and I know we're talking about bruises as well from the hits, but a lot of it is just the DOMS from all the hard running and stuff. But that getting moving on the Sunday, I just remembered it then was a big game changer. Mm.
Yeah. So get moving, get your blood flowing, reduce that inflammatory response. And so we will leave you all with those bits of information. You can find Jason at EFM Mawson Lakes. Follow us on Instagram. Wade at EFM McGill, myself at EFM Westmead, and more importantly, follow the podcast Instagram page at the EFM Health Club Podcast, both on Instagram and Facebook. That'll do us for another week, boys. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Thanks, Wade.
Cheers, fellas.
We'll catch you next week.